Hi everybody, so I am going to make us a quick video that's going to help to solve, so I can solve algebraic fractions. And then I lost the slideshow. There it is. So I will, by the end of this video, have all 4 of these done. I may or may not have time to explain them all, but if you write them down and try them, then at the end I'll have answers in work for everything. So the process that we've been using to solve algebraic fractions this year is to go through and find common denominators first. And if you have a common denominator, then you can solve across the top, which is super nice. So I'm going to start with number 1. You see it's a little bit big. So I'm going to rewrite that down here just so I have more room to work with it. So I've got 18 over, and I'm going to put a parentheses around it, x minus 1 equals 6 over x plus 3. I like to leave myself a little bit of room because when I get common denominators, I just have to write some new things in. So I'm going to, over here, I'm going to put parentheses next to all the things. So here's what I know. When I'm looking at this side right now, I have x minus 1. But on the other side, I have x plus 3. So if I want to make common denominators, then I have to multiply in the x plus 3 to this side and the x plus 3 to this side. Then over on the right side, I already have the x plus 3, so I need the x minus 1. Now what's super nice about this is now you see that I have a common denominator. Well, if that's the case, then all I need to do is solve the top, because this one has an equal sign, so I'm actually trying to solve. I do want to take a note though. Excluded values. There are 2 things that x could not be, coming from right here and right here. So the bottom, if x was 1, that would make the bottom 0, which we can't do. And if x was negative 3, those won't work. So if it's on the bottom, you can't have 0 on the bottom, but you want to have 0 on the top. So now I'm just going to take this 18 and multiply in the x plus 3 from this side. See, there's an equal sign, so I'm going to draw a line down just to help myself. So I've got 18x plus 18 times 3 is 54. And over on the right side, I've got 6 times x minus 1. Again, the bottom is equal, so all I have to do is solve across the top. And so I get 6x minus 6. All right, now, do you see that I just have x to the first power? So I'm just going to have one solution. And so in order to do that in this case, because it's just x, I want to get all the x's to one side. So I'll do that here. And so I've got 12 x's, drop down my plus 54, drop down my minus 6. So I've got all the x's to one side, but then I want to move the numbers to the other side. So I'm going to subtract 54. So this is just old school solving equations, which is kind of nice. So I get 12x equals negative 60. So now how do I undo times 12? Divided by 12, divided by 12. So x equals negative 5. So there's my solution. I want a quick check to the top with that, like I didn't get an excluded value or anything. Nope, x could be negative 5. Awesome. So now I'm just going to check that up here. So 18 over negative 5 minus 1, is that equal to 6 over negative 5 plus 3? Well, this is 18 over negative 6. This is 6 over negative 2. Those both give me negative 3, so yep, that works. Woohoo! So that was when I had 2 binomials on the bottom. Now, the nice thing, if I look over at this next one, number 2, this time I have one binomial, but then on the other one I just have a 5. So I want to get that into, I just want to make common denominators for that as well. So I'm going to write it bigger up here over x plus 7. And then over here, I've got 3 over 5. So I want a common denominator at first. And if that's the case, I'll put in parentheses. So over here, let's see, on this side I have the x plus 7, on this side I have a 5. So I'm going to multiply a 5 into both of these, and then an x plus 7 into both of these. As I'm doing that, I only look on the bottom for excluded values, so there's just one, and my excluded value is that x is negative 7. So x couldn't be negative 7. That would make the bottom 0, which is all bad. Okay, do you see now I have a common denominator? So I can therefore, because there's an equal sign, just solve across the top. So I'm going to do that, and you come back. I would like you to pause the video, check and see if we come up with the same thing. Ready? And pause. Maybe. So I came up with x equals 13, and if I check that on the top, I get 12 over 20 equals 3 over 4. Yep, or 3 over 5, and that is true. So I'm going to go through and just solve 3 and 4. However, I want to make sure that there's another one that might be a little bit tougher. So you can write down 3 and 4, and I'll come back and give you answers to them. But I want to check over on this next slide when we get something like number 5. There's going to be, so we want to check number 5, and I want to remind you what it looks like to multiply, and then we'll maybe check number 7. So why don't you write those down, and we're going to do those as well. So I'm going to start number 5. I'm just going to write that down here so I have more room. So x over x plus 3. The reason I want to do this one is I'm going to get 2 answers. So I've got 5 over x plus 7. Okay, so I want to make common denominators. As I do that, I'm going to put parentheses around here. I've got x plus 3 on this side. I don't have it on this side, so I'm going to put it in, multiply that in. X plus 3. All right, then on this side, I already have the x plus 3, but I don't have the x plus 7. Now, just so you know, it doesn't matter like which side you put it on, because you can multiply in any order. Now, do you see that I have a common denominator? Because it's an equal, I'm good. I don't have to, I can not worry about the denominator and just solve across the top. Well, that means I get x times x plus 7 equals 5 times x plus 3. So draw my line down, so I get an x squared plus 7x. If at any time I'm going too fast, you just push pause. That's the beauty of a video. Over here, I'm going to get 5x plus 15. All right, now the last couple that we solved, I just like moved the x's to one side and the numbers to the other side. But in this case, you can't do that. It's a different context because I now have a graph that looks like this instead of a line. So there's going to be 2 solutions. So how do I do that? I want to get this side equal to 0. So if I do that, I go minus 5x, and then minus the 15. Okay, so if that happens, I get x squared plus 2x, because 7 minus 5x is 2, minus 15 equals 0. At this point in time, you should be like, I know how to do that. Yes, you do. Here we go. What multiplies to give you x squared? What multiplies to give you negative 15, but adds to give me 2? I'm going to go 3 and 5. So 3x, 5x. The 5 has to be positive, 3 negative. Okay, so what that means is now I put it in my factored form. So x minus 3, x plus 5 equals 0. Okay, so I've got 2 solutions, one here and one here. And because this is the top, these actually like are the solutions. So x does equal 3, x does equal negative 5. Now, I want to go back and check and make sure that that doesn't ruin anything from my original. So remember my original, I had x plus 3 and x plus 7 on the bottom. So I know x can't be negative 3, but we don't care. I mean, like we care, but that doesn't ruin anything for us. And x can't be negative 7. So what's on the bottom can't be, those are excluded values. What's on the top can be 0. So I get my solutions are 3 and negative 5. My excluded values are negative 3 and negative 7. All right, let's do number 8, just because it is good practice. And then I think from there, I'll just put answers up to the other ones. All right, so this one, I've got x plus 2 over 6. And that equals 3 over x minus 1. Okay, so over here, do you see I have the 6, but I don't have the 6 over here. So I'll grab a different color, put the 6 in. And over here, I'm going to do x minus 1 times this. And x minus 1. Okay, my bottom is the same, so I can just solve across the top. So that means that I have x minus 1 times x plus 2 equals 18. But do you remember what to do here? Well, x times x is x squared, and negative 1 times 2 is negative 2, but don't forget, it's kind of like the smiley face that we do when we're factoring. We're just going back and forth from factoring. So I get negative 1x, positive 2x, so you know together that gives me 1x, positive 1x, equals 18. But since I have an x squared, how many solutions do I get? Got it. But I have to get it equal to 0 first. So I've got x squared plus 1x minus 20 equals 0. I think maybe you can just go straight to pause it if you don't know the answer and you need to think. Plus 5 minus 4. So those aren't your solutions. Your solutions, therefore, are x equals negative 5, x equals positive 4. Okay, but let's check, were there any excluded values? There was one excluded value from the bottom. I would say x can't be negative 1, but that doesn't mess up my answers because it wouldn't have been an answer anyway. Okay, so I'm going to pause and go back and write all the answers to the other things, but hopefully this has been a helpful review for you. Watch it as many times as you need. All right, so there we go. If you've gone through and tried them yourself. Number 3, x is negative 9, and there's nothing that it couldn't be because there's no x's on the bottom. So no excluded values there. Number 4 ends up with x equals negative 2. And your excluded value is positive 2. So they don't mess with each other. You just need to know that it's there. So now I'm going to hop to that next page. I'll do those, let's see, we already did 5 and 8, so I'll do 6 and 7 just so you can check if you want extra practice. Yeah, there you go. All right, there we go, 6 and 7, so just pause it if you need to. 6, your solutions are x equals 10, x equals negative 2, and x can't be 0 because, do you see that x by itself there? So x can't be 0. Number 7, you end up with x is 6 and x is negative 2, but it cannot be 12 and 0. Those are excluded values that would make a hole in the graph. So, there you go. Hopefully that helps, and we'll see you tomorrow.